I see this mistake a lot with novice clients and coaches where they go, look, in the first couple of weeks, we're not going to look at the scale. You're going to gain some weight. You're going to retain some water, glycogen, and all this. Like, listen, bitch, your strength when you're a novice is about neuromuscular efficiency. It's not actually like a deep-seated neurological adaptation. You're just getting more coordinated, right? You're a baby fucking giraffe that's just getting your fucking sea legs under you, right? And if you're skinny fat out of the gate, I don't care, because long term, reaching health goals and performance goals, you got to dig, right? Like, I think so many people who train general population clients make this mistake in the early days of training a client, and they get all like performance based and they start doing it's like, look, sure, if they can lift more weight, make them lift more weight, but do not let that diet slip. You need to pull people into a deficit so that you can get their hormones to a place where they can actually start putting on muscle, right? And that's the big difference. Your starting point, like, I've seen your free testosterone levels at the beginning of this cut. It was hilarious. Like, I know guys on gear that have less free testosterone. You are just all that is, man. Look, it's been a couple days. He shaved 4 hours ago and he has fucking beard out of his eyelashes. But it's like, well, why do you think that's the case, right? It's because it's your diet, your nutrition, your habits. Everything is I wouldn't even say optimized. I would say everything is maximized for proper hormone production for putting on muscle, right? So when you're hearing this, you have to consider your starting line versus everyone else's. And the goal is to, if you want the same results with your clients or with yourself, you have to start from the same starting line, and most people aren't. And I see people fall into that trap with their clients time in and time or what the fuck? Time and time again. Jesus Christ, man.
Gotcha.
Flight was delayed last night. Didn't get until 3. Brutal. Air
Oof.
travel. Shout out American Airlines. But I see people make that mistake where it's like, hey, we're getting stronger. We need to feed you. It's like, it's not strength, dude. It's just efficiency. Like, he's getting stronger squat. Like that it's motor unit recruitment. It's not like he can train enough. He can train hard enough, or she can train hard enough to recruit muscle to a point where the glycogen depletion and all of that. That's not what's happening. It's not the same. So we have to stop treating them the same. Like, priority number one. And I think so often people lean too much into the training side and not nearly enough into the nutrition side on both ends of the spectrum, on bulking and cutting, if you will. So it's like, if you have someone who's new to lifting, do not let the novel adaptation of getting more skilled at lifting validate their wantingness and decision to eat more food, and worry about the scale, right? Like, fuck you. I don't care. That's why you hired me. We're not going to start feeding ourselves, because what you're experiencing is not the same experience as someone like you, right? Like, is like someone like Jiunta, who now, like, he's redlined his performance, and in order to keep pushing it, he has to push other physiological variables. These people haven't even fucking dropped into first gear yet. They're nowhere near redlining their performance. They need to get their ass into a physiological, metabolic, hormonal state so that they may have a chance one day to do that. And it's just like, it's such an easy, lazy way to go about training people, because it's so easy to justify, like, oh man, like, I just can't. I'm so hungry. And trainers like, yeah, like, you're kind of strong. It's way stronger to get, or way easier to get. It's like, you're not getting strong. Stop fucking telling people that. There's more weight on the bar, but that's not strength. That's efficiency in the early days. And so you just end up, and I see it, dude, man, the number of fucking HRT bros right now with like the receding hairline and the pot belly. It's like, you are a fucking walking heart attack. And it's like, they just justify it with these very superficial, like, yeah, like, they got a bit of a bicep vein, but you can tell that's because they're kind of dehydrated from drinking so much the night before. And they just got a fucking boiler on them. Looks like they're walking around with a pillow under their shirt. And you're just like, how much, what you're doing? You're doing like TRT. You're doing like the old 400 milligrams of test TRT, aren't you? Right. You're not doing like the actual prescribed stuff. But that's what they do. They justify it with these very superficial understandings of how this stuff works. And I watch trainers sit there and just let them do it. It's like, do your fucking job, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a good point about like actual performance, because if we think of this in two way, well, in the way where there's the level of performance that someone's at, and relative to, we'll say, their potential performance, and the greater that discrepancy is, then the more room there is to make up performance with things outside of diet. Like a bigger rock to turn is probably, I'm not even going to say the words, but looking into hormones, because their test is probably lower than it should be if they have too much body fat. Like there's habits that they probably have that don't align with them recovering properly, like not sleeping enough, like if they are drinking, if they're using tobacco, like there's all types of variables that you can look into with someone that is more gen pop, that is going to shift the needle in terms of performance more so than just giving them more calories. Like I'd say probably 100% of the time, whenever I'm working with someone or I'm talking to someone that wants to improve performance in the gym and they're underexposed, like more gen pop, like where do you start? The number one thing, you probably need to eat more protein and probably less fat. Like that's probably the first thing that you can do. So protein has 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9 calories per gram. So right there, like you can increase your protein intake and decrease your fat intake, and you can keep your calories exactly the same. And that's going to create a favorable shift in terms of body composition. Get to sleep an hour earlier. That's going to help you produce more testosterone, more growth hormone, the things that happen in your sleep.
You're coming at me today, bro.
No,
Jesus Christ. Like
I'm
I'm
sorry.
right here, dog. Holy fuck, dude.
No, but like this is, how many
Unbelievable.
times have you had this conversation though? It's like there's a lot of things you can do aside from just like throwing more calories at someone if you want to see performance, an increase in performance. And like kind of back to the original point I was making, is like that the bigger the gap is between their performance level and their theoretical potential performance, like their maximum performance, the more of these things you can maximize to get progress out of them before like overall calorie surplus becomes relevant. Like the trade-off in increasing testosterone by decreasing body fat might outweigh the performance benefits of them having more calories to be fueled for the workouts. And it could
Yeah.
just be, as opposed to increasing calories, like nutrition timing is like, just make sure you have some protein and carbs before your workouts and you'll feel better for your workouts. Like
Yeah. There's a
there's
cyclical component to it, right? Like I think of it this way. Your bloods were good and you worked hard for a long time to get them good. And that wasn't necessarily your goal, but health begot performance for you until it didn't. And then you had to step out, step out of the Shire and get a little bit dangerous with shit. And then all of a sudden, and this is where, dude, I fucking hate old people on the internet. But this idea that, get health is, like, no, it's not. That's just someone, because it's a cycle. Like your first
right.
pass, and if you're like a Gen Pop client, yes, get your bloods done regardless of whether you're on hormones or not on hormones, and then do everything within our natural power to start leveling these hormones out, right? Like everything you said, the sleep, the nutrition, the hydration, all of that, and to see how quickly that those two things start to trend together, of like, hey, look, my bloods are better and my performance is going up.
Mhm.
But there's going to be a point where your bloods are great and your performance isn't get better. And then you got to go, hey, bloods, we're going to sorry in advance about what's about to happen.
Yeah.
But this is where real like high performers live. Otherwise, it would just be like the healthiest people in the world. You wouldn't see Olympic athletes dropping dead at 50, but it's like
Yeah.
they have to go out and push, because at the other end of this health performance continuum, at the other end of the plateau, you have to sacrifice health.
Right. Yeah. There's always going to be collateral when you pursue performance. And like, I fully accepted that in this pursuit. It's like, all right, like I can, yeah, like
I'm
watch
ready to
out.
die.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. What do I need? A brain tumor? I don't, give it to me as long as I can squat more. But what I'm getting at is that that collateral, like I could probably squat 4 plates, for the next, I don't know, we'll say 10 years if I live that long. No problem, with no collateral in terms of, you know, my anything on my bloods, like cholesterol. Like I don't have to eat a ton of food. I just need to like, be mindful about my recovery and like stay on top of my shit, train reasonably hard, and like be fine. And that's I'll probably be relatively healthy objectively in terms of blood markers. But like if I want to squat more, if I want to squat 5, if I want to squat 6, like the more performance increases, the more collateral there's going to be associated with that. Right. And that could be, it's going to be different for everyone, again, depending on your genetics and your propensity to perform. But like this is something that I have a relatively high affinity to perform in, say, weightlifting or like, strength sports for my size. So it's something that like if I want to continue to pursue this, I'm already at the outskirts of what would be like an outlier in terms of strength. Like most humans will never snatch what I've snatched or squat what I've squatted. So it's like, all right, you take someone that's an outlier and you want to get them to increase 5, 10 more percent. That's an insane amount of improvement on someone that's already good at something. So it's like, all right, the further you want to go, the more of an outlier you want to be, the more risk is associated with that. Whether that's like, you know, disc herniations or like ligaments in your knee or whatever it might be, like a, a triangular, what was it, fibrocartilage in the wrist.
Fibrocartilage. Yeah.
Yeah, like you tear that shit, like yeah, goodbye snatching. But like all these things could happen. Like there's so much collateral that you're putting on the line. The stronger you get, or the harder you, or the higher you perform. But the people that have the affinity to that, they're going to take the risk because they're so close. Like it's being 5% off of a world record. Like not me personally, but like someone that's 5% off of a world record, they'll do whatever the fuck they have to do to increase 6%. Right. So it's like people that are that close, they're going to accept the risks. I think what you're talking about, though, there's a bunch of retards out there, like nowhere near that realm of possibility, that are putting themselves in positions to take unnecessary risks for a very mediocre level of performance. And I don't know if that's out of ignorance or like vanity or like notoriety or whatever it is, but that's all too
Dude,
all
it
too
just
present on the internet
it
nowadays.
it's just crazy to me that like competition drives evolution.
No,
Period. Like and it's competition. This idea, like a finch never competed with itself. It never woke up and was like, "Be the best version of you today." A finch was never like 1% better. Like it never had that dumb mindset. It was just like, yeah, I gotta hunt to eat, and I got to be better at hunting than the other guy, so I don't starve to death. And it's like, and this is where I think performance and understanding the ebb and flow and the trade-offs between performance and health. And I'll go to toe with anyone who wants to argue this, because if you show me someone who does not recognize, and I think given this context, more people will back off from this argument. Yeah, there are phases in which you have to deprioritize health in order to improve performance. And like, this
absolutely.
is, I'm talking primarily about things that are more dependent on output.